Hi everyone, welcome to my monthly Facebook Live on the Psychologies magazine Facebook page. If this is the first time you're tuning into my Facebook Lives, my name is David Hamilton and I'm the kindest czar for Psychologies magazine. So today I'm going to talk about survival of the kindest and survival of the kindest and why we're wired to be kind, and also what happens when we're not. Right, so survival of the kindness, why we're wired to be kind. Now, let me clear up a very common misperception. And what I mean by that is many people, and I would hazard a guess to say most people think of that we are a selfish species, that we're wired to be selfish. You've heard the whole term, the selfish gene, or we've heard of survival of the fittest. And we assume from those terms that, the fittest means the biggest and the strongest and the fastest, and the selfish gene means that we have genes that predispose us to be selfish. Now that's a very common misperception. It's also completely wrong. What do I mean by it's completely wrong? So survival of the fittest doesn't mean the fittest or the strongest. Survival of the fittest means survival of the species that is most suited to a particular environment. That's all it means. It doesn't mean it's the fittest and the strongest or the fastest. It just means it refers to the species that is most suited to a particular environment. So for example, if an environment was really cold, then a species that had thick skin would be more suited. Now there might be another species that is faster and stronger and got bigger muscles, can move quicker, taller and everything. But if they don't have thick skin, then they're not going to survive, as well as the species with thick skin, who might even be really slow. And they might be not very physically strong. So survival of the fittest doesn't mean the fittest and the strongest and the fastest and that whole male masculine energy. It just means survival of the species that is most suited to a particular environment. So if a particular environment, for example, required people to live and work together, to cooperate, to get on and really live and work together for the common good, then the species most suited to that environment, i.e. the species fittest, survival of the fittest in that terms for that environment, would be a species who had high empathy, who were helpful to each other, who could live and work together in harmony without too much fighting and conflicts. So that's what I mean by survival of the fittest. Now, the selfish gene also does not mean that we somehow have a gene or a set of genes that make us selfish. The selfish gene really just refers to the fact that DNA is just in the business of replicating itself. Look, DNA doesn't sit there and say, I better not copy myself, I better not replicate myself in case I offend that cell over there or that other piece of that protein or that enzyme, I better not offend them. DNA isn't thinking at all. It is simply selfishly in the process of reproduction, of replicating itself. So the whole notion of survival of the fittest and the selfish gene, for many people, almost give license to the fact, well, we're just selfish anyway, we might as well do what we like. But in actual fact, that's a very common misperception, false misperception, because we know in actual fact survival of the fittest refers to just a survival of a species who's most suited to a particular environment. And the selfish gene just refers to the fact that DNA is just in the business of reproducing itself. I think it's been referred to as a survival machine. So that's really all those terms mean. So in actual fact, we're genetically wired to be kind. Because think about our environment, the way the environment that the human species has to live and work within. Now we live in a cooperative society. We live in families, we live in households with our families, we work in places of work that have many other people working with us. Our countries, our towns, cities and countries and continents have to really work together for a common goal. So therefore, and that's been the same in a smaller version for hundreds of thousands of years. So in other words, our species has had to evolve within that particular environment. Now, the skills you need to survive in that particular environment is ability to get on, to have empathy, to be kind, and an ability to communicate, to work with people, rather than an ability to be selfish. Here's an example of how this whole process came around. So let's say you have such an environment, and let's wind the clock back a little bit. So maybe 100 to 150,000 years, for example, right? So let's say you have an environment where there's tribes, there's different tribes, and you have one tribe who has genes, let's say they're pink coloured genes. And I'm calling them pink genes just so that we can make this analogy. So let's say the genes of this tribe are pink in colour. And what those pink genes do is they predispose that particular tribe to finding it easy to work together, to cooperate, to live together, genes that make them high in empathy and more helpful towards each other. And in other words, they are all able to work together for a common goal. Now let's say another tribe has genes which are coloured blue. And the pink and blue don't mean anything, they're just arbitrary colours here that I'm just choosing. But let's say the blue genes predispose that particular tribe to really be much more selfishly inclined. In other words, much more self-centered, self-focused. In other words, they're not bothered so much if there's danger to the tribe. As long as I'm okay, then that's okay. So let's say you have a typical set of environmental conditions over a period of time where there's danger from animals, wild animals, danger from invading tribes, environmental dangers. The people with the tribe with the pink genes, by living and working together, are more likely to get through that because they're working together. They're sharing their foods. They're working. Some people are protecting the rest of them, so they're living and working together. So they're more likely to thrive through difficult times. Whereas the tribe with the blue genes, when danger comes, they're just saying, well, I'm not bothered about you. As long as I'm okay, that'll do me. And they're all fending for themselves. Now, over a long period of time, what you'll find is the people with the blue genes, the tribe with the blue genes who are fending for themselves, will not last very long, and their numbers will gradually dwindle down, because you really need the protection of the group. You really need the protection of the group, not just to protect yourself, but also for gathering in food and for building a society. Whereas the tribe with the pink genes will continue to grow because they're living and working together. And you see the same thing now. We actually need to live and work together for the common good. So that's always been the case for the human species. So that popular misconception that we're wired to be selfish is actually not true. We're actually wired to be kind. Of course, yes, we do have that part of us that's looking for self-preservation. But the dominant aspect of our nature is kindness. One of my favourite jokes that kind of identify the fact that we've got both sets of genes. I heard Billy Connolly, the comedian, telling it one time on TV. So there's these two nature filmmakers in the African savannah, and they're filming wildebeests, and they've been filming all day, and they get some amazing camera shots of the wildebeest, and then they see a lion coming over the ridge at the back, the ridge at the other end of the field, and the lion's looking right at them, and it's like, I've got your number kind of thing. And you see the lion coming towards them, and it's doing the over-shoulder number, and it's not looking at the wildebeest, it's looking right at the two nature filmmakers, and the two of them look at each other kind of panicking. Then one of them bends down, opens his bag, and takes out a pair of Nike running shoes, and he quickly puts his shoes on and ties them up, and puts the other one on and ties them up. And his pal turned round and said, "What are you doing? Putting these Nike running shoes, you'll never outrun a lion." And he said, "It doesn't matter, as long as I can outrun you, that's all that matters to me." So we do have both sets of genes. We have genes that predispose us to survival, but our dominant nature is actually to be kind, to look out for each other, to help each other. Otherwise, we wouldn't have got this far in evolution. In fact, the kindness gene, which I've referred to in my book, The 5 Side Effects of Kindness, and also in other Facebook Lives, the kindness gene is the oxytocin gene. In other words, oxytocin, this hormone that's associated with reproduction and breastfeeding, but also caring and compassion and kindness, is one of the oldest in the human genome. Now get this, it's about 500 million years old, 2 days and 6 hours. Nah, I'm only kidding about the 2 days and the 6 hours, but it's 500 million years old, give or take a wee bit. Now, isn't that amazing? For a gene to be so old, ancient, what that means is it's been of vital importance for our overall survival and thrival. Survival and thrival? That's a new term. For our overall ability to survive and thrive. And during that 500 million years, it's integrated itself into a large amount of crucial physical systems in the body. I mean, for example, it plays a role in regrowth of blood vessels, it plays a role in digestion, it plays a role in maintenance of the health of the cardiovascular system, it plays a role in us bonding and getting on with each other, it plays a role in breastfeeding, it plays a role in reproduction, you name it. It even plays a role in the construction of heart muscle cells, of the immune system, of brain cells. It plays a role in just about everything that's of vital importance to the human body. And it's because it's been with us for 500 million years old, and as species have diversified in evolution, you find that almost all vertebrates also have an oxytocin gene or something similar to it, and that allows them to look after and care for their young. So we're literally wired from ancient times to be kind. And so when we're not being kind, it's really not so healthy. And I refer to this sometimes as nature's catch-22. So here's nature's catch-22. Nature has built into us kindness genes and a predisposition to be kind. And it means that you can't fake it. You can't just pretend to be kind and get the survival benefits and the thriving and the health benefits. You just can't do that. Because to get those benefits, you have to generate the kindness hormone, which is 500 million years old, which is oxytocin. So you have to generate the kindness hormone. Now, the only way to do that, other than warm physical contact, the only way to do that is through how you feel. So the reason why I call this nature's catch-22 is the only way to get the benefits of kindness is if you mean what you do. So you're coming from the heart, you're being kind for the right reasons because it's the right thing to do. And as you be kind because it's the right thing to do and you feel that warmth and connection, it's the feelings that switch on the tap that floods the body with oxytocin, the kindness gene. So in other words, you have to mean it to feel it, and you have to feel it to get the hormonal, the physiological benefits of kindness. So this is why I call it the nature's catch-22. If you don't mean it, if you're just faking it, just pretending, yes, it is helpful to another person depending on what you do, but it certainly doesn't have any health benefits to ourselves. So nature's catch-22 is such that we have inbuilt into us not only the genes to be kind so that we're predisposed to be kind, but we're predisposed to be really kind, to actually mean it, to be kind because it's the right thing to do. So that's how deeply wired this is, and this is why I call it nature's catch-22. So nature has evolved as catch-22 to make sure that we mean it. So we'll only survive and thrive long term if we actually mean our acts of kindness. How cool is that? We're wired to be kind. And this is why that when we're not being kind, ultimately it's when we are being the opposite of kindness, for example, of kind, it can have negative consequences. Physiologically, the opposite of kindness is stress. Oftentimes I've said to audiences, what is the opposite of stress? And 99 people out of 100 will say peace or calm, but that's not exactly fully true. That's the absence of stress, or one way to think about the absence of stress. The opposite of stress, physiologically speaking, is the feelings associated with kindness. Now, what I mean by that is the feelings associated with being kind and compassionate are warmth and connection, gentleness, openness, expansiveness. That is physiologically the opposite of stress. Mentally and emotionally it is also, but physiologically. And scientists did this wee study where they found that if we increase our kindness, then the levels of stress go down. And it's like a seesaw. And when stress and kindness are opposites. So when kindness is less, stress is more likely to be higher. When kindness increases, stress is more likely to be lower. And it doesn't mean that when you're being kind that nothing stressful happens. We know that that's not life. What it means is when we're being kind, because of the feelings associated with that, the feelings which are physiologically the opposite of stress, it takes the sting out of these stressful events. In other words, the same set of circumstances doesn't feel quite so stressful because the feelings of kindness have swamped out some of the feelings of stress. So what we get is this physiological opposite. Whereas we increase kindness, we experience, generally speaking, less stress. And again, it's not because stressful events don't happen, but the feelings associated with kindness take some of the sting out of the stressful event. So this is why you get this opposite. Physiologically, you see it in many systems of the body. I mean, for example, stress is associated with cardiovascular disease, increased blood pressure, thickening of the inside of the arteries, and also cluttering of the inside of the arteries through the effects on inflammation. Whereas being kind, because of how it makes you feel, and that feeling of warmth and connection switches on the oxytocin production. Now what oxytocin does in the arteries is soften the walls and dilate them, and sweeps them out, keeps them clean. So in other words, where stress can, and ultimately what kindness therefore does by dilating the arteries, keeping them clean, is it reduces blood pressure. So here we have stress fills up, clutters the arteries and increases blood pressure. Kindness cleans out the arteries and reduces blood pressure, so it's physiologically opposite. Stress increases blood pressure, kindness reduces blood pressure. Isn't that amazing? Stress clutters up, increases the amount of stuff in the blood that can lead to disease. Kindness neutralises many of the effects. So it's like a physiological opposite in many different ways. It even has that effect not just in the heart, but on the aging process. There's multiple different ways that we can measure aging. One of them is even on the rate of that skin cells age. And also similarly, the same phenomena on the inside of the body, on the arteries throughout the immune system, joints, etc. But look at the skin, for example. And one of the aging processes of the skin is caused by free radicals, called free radical damage, which you often get from sunlight or mental and emotional stress, not very healthy dietary choices. And the proper term for it is oxidative stress. And scientists found that when we increase the amount of the kindness hormone, oxytocin, in the skin, and as I say, the only way to get it in the skin is to produce it internally. You can't eat it or drink it. You have to feel it to create it. So if you be kind and you feel that warmth and connection through a genuine act of kindness, you generate the oxytocin, it then gets into the skin. It's the only way. There's no other way of getting it into the skin. You can't eat it or drink it. It's a purely endogenous, meaning from the inside process. So when you increase the amount of oxytocin in the skin, the levels of free radical damage come down amazingly, substantially. In other words, the technical name oxidative stress reduces. So again, as we increase kindness of the genuine sort that generates oxytocin, so we reduce the free radical damage, the rate of free radical damage in the skin. So in other words, while stress can increase the rate of aging, being kind can decrease the rate of aging. And again, the reason why all this takes place, the reason why is because we have this kindness hormone, oxytocin, which is about 500 million years old. So we're literally wired for kindness, and that is why being kind, because of how it makes you feel, has all these physical benefits on the body, just like stress, because of how that makes you feel, has very negative consequences. So isn't that amazing? So I'm almost at the end of my little Facebook Live here. I like to keep them relatively short. This has been nearly 20 minutes. I just wanted to say, usually at the end of these Facebook Lives, I just set a little challenge, because the whole point of these, Susie Walker, the editor-in-chief of Psychologies magazine, asked if I could be the kindness czar and do these regular Facebook, because what she wanted to do is make a difference in the world. And if we keep talking about being kind, we keep this dialogue up, and we keep therefore putting it into practice, then gradually through this ripple effect, maybe we'll just make the world a little bit better place, even if it's the world of your own house, or the world of your own office block, or the world, or the world of your town, or the entire world. But we do this. So every month I like to set you a wee challenge. So the wee challenge this month is just see if you can be kind, even just a nice word, or a kind thought about someone, or a kind act every day for the month. So this is the 1st of November. You might, I know the way Facebook works, some people might not see this until maybe the 3rd or the 4th or the 5th of November. It doesn't matter. For the month of November, just try and do an act of kindness every day. And I know sometimes doing an act of kindness every day, not everyone has the physical opportunity. So even consciously, intentionally think a kind thought about someone or about an animal. Intentionally, or say something nice for someone, or physically do something. The most powerful acts of kindness are physically doing, simply because you get that physical connection stronger, and also because you're doing something good for someone else. And saying kind thoughts work, saying kind things help as well, but even just, as I say, thinking kind thoughts still generate that feeling, so you're still getting the benefit at the end of the day. So anyway, that's my Facebook Live for today finished. So survival of the kindness. We're genetically wired to be kind. We're not wired to be selfish. A selfish gene does not mean we have genes that are selfish. It just means it refers to the process of replication of DNA. DNA doesn't, get offended. Doesn't say, I'm not going to replicate myself today in case I offend that protein or that enzyme. So DNA just selfishly replicates. That's its job. So that's what the selfish gene refers to, generally, broadly speaking. And survival of the fittest doesn't mean the fittest and the most masculine and the fittest and the strongest and the fastest. It just means the species that is most suited to a particular environment. And the genes that we have that suit us to the particular environment we live in are genes that make us better able to relate to one another, to be cooperative, to show empathy and compassion, and ultimately to be kind. So wherever you are, whatever you're doing today, enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you right back here, same time next month. So have a great day. Bye for now. And